Good morning. You feel like my sentence. Denver, Adawag. Ito ba yung na-absent? Oh. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pearl. Where is Jan Denver, Adawag? Makam-absent. Okay, so,
Sir.
hello. Ikaw ba yung na-absent, Mr. Adawag? Hindi.
Yes po, sir.
Bakit ka na-absent? Ang haba-haba naman. Ayaw mo sabihin. Secret, secret lang. Hello. Good morning. So, nangayin ko. So, ni Pearl Tata. Where are you residing, Miss Bulso?
Sir, Itogon Benguet. Ako yung tinanong mo nung last, sir.
Ayaw, no. Alam mo naman, malimutin na yung tatay mo. Itugon. Where in Itugon?
Luakan Itogon, sir.
Ay, Luwakan. Sige, yan. What ka signal What is your career?
Mobile data lang, sir.
Ay, mobile. Sorry.
Maganda sa umaga.
Ay, pero sa wala na. Mobile data lang. Ito na lang. Anyway, of course, this is ay, recording lang. Sorry. Permission to record. Makalimutan ko. Last meeting na ba? Nakalimutan. Okay, okay. Anyway, you might be expecting what you call as the assessment, ano? But nonetheless, we will not have an assessment today because, as I've said, we will just have to what we call discuss the coverage of your exam. Anyway, it's almost the same, and I propose, if you will agree, that we will have a 40-60, 40 class standing and 60% exam so that you will have better chance of passing. Okay? Okay ba? Okay ba sa inyo ang 40-60 o gusto niyo pa rin yung 50-50? I was trying to look at your grades because I can already transfer it to my grading sheet. Hindi maganda ang class standing. Bakit di rin maganda ang exam? Ano? Okay ba yung 40-60? Magsalita kayo kahit sa chat.
Okay lang po yan, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good. Oh, yun.
Sir, okay lang.
Okay lang. Okay, thank you. So, we will use that, 40% plus standing and 60% exam to have a better chance. That's why I opted not to give it today so that it will give you more time to review. And from the chat group, it was mentioned na sunod-sunod daw yung quiz nila ngayon na araw kahit nung Thursday at saka Friday. Ay, Thursday at saka Saturday. So anyway, that is what I will do because I got confirmation from you unless there is a dissenting opinion. You can place it in the chat. I do not like. No, okay lang, pakibagay din sa chat for purposes of record. O dyan, ikaw muna. Lagay mo sa chat. Jan Denver. Okay, ako. Tapno lang, meron tayong, web. Mahirap na. Baka sabihin, pinalitan lang natin without your consent. So, again, the coverage from the very beginning, Module 1, 2, and 3. Sa Module 3, that is equilibrium, I will just had the first part. Solving yung very basic, reactions, mga ganun. Forces, angle, whatever. Just like in the example that we will be discussing later on. Okay, people? Is that okay and new to you? I think you have 5 to 6 problem depending yung set nyo. Ano? So I will be doing it again by different set. Ano? Para masaya. To minimize, of course, your copying. As I've said, Wala namang kailangan magkopya kung as long as you understand the concepts. Hopefully, you can do that. Anyway, again, your exam is scheduled on, ano ka din kami 23? February 23 ba? Jan?
Yes po, sir.
Yes
Okay.
po, sir. Sa amin niyo po.
So, take note it's a 3-hour window for you. So, it's 8:30 until 11:30. Expectedly, I should solve the problem in 1 hour and you in 2 hours. So, we will give additional 1 hour for scanning and sending. So, again, I repeat, huwag niyong hintayin yung last minute na mag-send. Huwag kayong maghintayan because if anything happens, again, merong na naman malilate dyan. Okay? So, we will give you an allowance of siguro mga 5 minutes lang. After that, we will start deducting again. So, that is, of course, to just make some discipline, to place some discipline in our course. Anyway, it's for your own good, not my good. And then, I repeat, no resubmissions. So, please, before you pindot, you have to check whether you are sending the correct file, you are sending a complete file, and then of course you have to double check. That's why do not rely on the last minute just to send your exams paper because of course it will have I don't know, it has its corresponding consequences. So if it is the correct file, if you have it solved completely, there's no problem. Just send it. Okay? And then, of course, your answers, as we said, no solution, no credit. As I have emphasized, it is part of our guidelines. So, the free body diagram or diagrams form part of our solution. So, please see to it that all is complete. No free body diagram, no credit. Because as you are observing right now, it is already an integral part of solution to have a free body diagram. That's why your modules endeavors to be able to present a free body diagram so that we can also relate to it. Being the evaluators, we could be able to easily, of course, understand where your direction is or where the error lies. Because as you can see, there are different approaches to the problem, different solutions. There is no single solution to this. So please see to it. There are different solutions, but of course one answer. And again, your answer should be to the third decimal place. And place it in a box as required, unless there are tabulations where you can place your answers, please do so. If you are instructed in the problem or instructed as a whole in your exam to place your final answers in the appropriate boxes, so please do so. That is also following instructions. It would also help us a lot in possibly evaluating your papers and sending it back. Okay, so we'll try our best to be able to solve. To solve and return return your papers. So anyway, we're still until the 28th. And then suddenly, March na pala. So we have 1 day break on the 25th. So please avail of that rest. Huwag gagala-gala. Okay? So ano pa? No resubmissions. And then as we have mentioned, everything has to be handwritten. And besides, you have to see to it, it's your handwriting. If not, problema mamanan. Okay? So see to it. So we are emphasizing this so that in a way, we can also check on the integrity of our students. Remember, you are signing an honor pledge there. On my honor, unless you do not have any honor, of course. Please, we have to have good moral, upright morals for our new civil engineers. Unless, of course, you have already been corrupted. Young as you are, you're already corrupted. So it becomes a problem and issue later on in your life. So I would think that you will have a better life if you are good, upright moral standards. Okay? So again, those are just reminders, your friendly reminders. And I will be implementing it so that we can have some standards in our class. Hindi tayo yung basta alam mo na, late ka na. May deduction na. Wala nang paligoy-ligoy na. Kasi it also helps us to at least be consistent as faculty. Ano? Much as we want to be considerate, we have to be considerate for the whole. So we don't live for one, we live for everybody. That's why it's my policy. What I do for one class, for one person, I apply it to the class, not only to the class, but to all my classes. So if I pass 70, I all pass 70. But if I fail 70 downwards, then obviously I will do it for all. Okay? So that is something that we have to abide by, so that in a way, we don't get to be questioned, or we don't have to be reasoning it out, regardless of the reason. So we live. There are issues that are abounding us, but of course we have to go by it. Matatag na republika. So okay, schedule now is on the 23rd, and please be ready. So the window is only 8:30 to 11:30. Beyond that, there is no more. Okay? Exam na po yan. Hindi na po seat work. Okay. So, Jan Dinber, kita man no rumor di screen ta. Let me just, yun. Okay. Oh, medyo fun. I posted in our class, ano?
Yes po, sir.
Nakita na. Salamat. Yun. Okay, so as we mentioned, the free body diagrams that would support your solution. The free body diagram is the most important single step in the solution of problems in time. Unknown, but I will also have to second it, that it is the most important. So therefore, if it is part of the solution, then it should be part of your requirement before you can start. Then we went on to the different terms that we were talking about: cable, surface. For the sake of our discussion, since we have not yet discussed about what you call friction, all the surfaces are assumed to be smooth. So huwag niyong hanapin. Smooth kaya ito, sir, or rough, sir, ito. Okay? So as I've said, as long as we have not yet discussed the topics on friction, then all surfaces are considered to be smooth. Okay? So you have a single reaction that is normal to the plane of contact between the support and the surface. Okay? Then you have here the most commonly used here, the roller support. The roller, single siya, ano? Normal. Since you have here, the terms used are roller, rocker. Ano? This is the rocker. Okay? So that is the rocker. So pag minsan ginagamit roller, basta may wheels. Again, this is a single. Hello. Rinig pa ba, Jan Denver? Hello. Jan Denver. Nawala yata ako. Hello. Hello.
Meron pa, sir.
Ay, meron. Sorry Kala ko nawawala kasi may nagme-message. Iba pa. Ayun. So these are the things that we have to see. These are terms that you would usually meet along the way. Rocker, roller. The symbols are there. And of course, as we said, the representation for the reaction is a single force. And then, of course, sliding, hindi masyado. Almost the same like a roller. And then you have the pin connection. As I've said, the other word that I use is a hinge because of its action. Ano? The action is also the same like a hinge. So you have two cases. You have here a pin free to turn. And this is the assumption that we will have first and foremost here in statics. Ano? Pin is free to turn, meaning to say it has no resistance for moment. This is different because when you get to steel, you have here moment resisting pins. So your pins are basically somewhat anchored to the component, kaya moment resisting. But take note, what we will be having along the way is pin free to turn. So that is now our assumption. And of course, we said that there are two reactors, horizontal and vertical. So these are the things that it can only do. So if let's say, again, as we said, if the actor or the action on your element is upward, then basically the direction of your horizontal would be to counteract actor, reactor. And this would now be the components of your reaction on the hinge, diba? Towards the left and downward. That is the correct one. Because if it is compression, then of course you have to analyze it. Since these are component, di ba? Horizontal and vertical component, then you should compute for the total reaction, which is the square root of the horizontal squared, vertical squared, and you get the angle theta. Okay? So as I repeat, for the sake of this discussion onwards until the finals, all your hinges or pin connections are considered to be pin freely rotating. Okay? The other type which you would be observing would be utilized, especially in strength of materials, and also in this case here, you have here a built-in or fixed support. So kung sinabing fixed, you can have here the illustration as you have there. You have also a structural steel which is bolted, bolted or welded to a anchorage on the wall. So this is the same scenario. And you will notice that it has three reactors, vertical, horizontal, and a moment. So it's almost the same as this. So your fixed or built-in support has three. It has horizontal resistance, vertical resistance, and moment resistance. So if they are reactors, then obviously you can have that. And the rest. So a free body diagram, sample of your free body diagram is indicated here. So if you have here, let's say the system, and you have a load P, it's like a transmission tower na kulang, ano? Kulang na transmission tower or possibly correct. Determinate. So there are terms, ano, yung determinate process. What does the term determinate means? It means to say that it is statically determinate, meaning to say you can use your three equations of static equilibrium to solve for the unknown. In this case, you have here, let's say, the support condition are your pin or hinge and then a rocker at B. So if you count the number of reaction, 2 for the pin or hinge and 1 for the rocker. So 3 unknown with 3 working equations, and since we have that, then we can say this is a determinate truss. But aside from that, we will soon be learning from our analysis of structure that the number of members and joints play also an important role. That is, of course, to be able now to solve it, we should first determine whether it is determinate, or you can solve it using your three equations of static equilibrium. So this is the whole class, and this is the load. And of course, as I've said, or as suggested in our discussion, you can start by drawing the structure. So, kompletuhin mo na. Huwag mo nang ibitinin. Ano? You complete the whole so that you can see. So, the next thing that you do, consider the applied load. Since you have an applied load, that will be P. And then, of course, you now substitute the remove, because we remove the support, with the force, which is consistent with its type. Ano? So as I've said, this is a hinge or a pin. It has two support. Take note, the directional arrows are against the applied, supposedly. Ano? So in this case, take note. Well, of course, as we said, it is first assumed. So it's your free choice on what to assume. But when the result comes negative, it goes counter to your assumption. Parang ganon. So you just have to be consistent. That's why I always tell you, it's not the convention, but it is more of a assumption. Okay? So for the pin or hinge, 2. And then for the rocker or for the roller, 1. Okay? That is why in your free body diagram, it would somehow look like this. Okay? For a cantilever beam, this is what I was telling you, the support is a fixed, okay, or built-in, which is embedded in the wall. So these are your applied loads, F1, F2, F3. So take note, F1, F2, F3 are your actors, and your reactors are at the support. So who would be able now to receive this actor, your reactors, ano? Sila ang, they will dissipate it. That's why your directions should go counter to the intended effect of the loads. Take note also that you have here, if you are given the mass of the structural element, then you have to compute for the weight, which is now equivalent to the mass times acceleration due to gravity. And it is working, since it's rectangle, then it is working on the centroid, or simply half of the length with respect to it. So if you will notice, you can now have the three, since it is fixed or built-in for the cantilever beam, then cantilever ang tawag nito, yung nakahang lang. Just like if your, what you call, your porches, ano, yung nasa labas, ano, those are cantilevered. Okay, so it's hanging. And basically, all of the supports are on the wall, so transferred. Kaya critical ang design nito. So you have the vertical, you have the horizontal, and of course, the moment resisting. So the direction, you have to assume it, but of course, when you do the assumption to minimize errors, you do it logically, you analyze. No? Kung nandito ka rito, almost all the forces are causing a clockwise rotation. So to have a moment, summation of moment equivalent to 0, then basically your moment should go counterclockwise to the applied forces. Yun lang ang very important. So here, tignan mo ito lang ang may horizontal component. Take note, the horizontal component of F3 is towards the right. So that's why the F, or the horizontal component of the cantilever beam, is towards the left, opposite. Yan, down, 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 down. So basically, your upward reaction at the support A is also upward. Logic yan. Ginagamitan ng pag-iisip. In a beam that is, of course, connected to hinge at a one point and is resting on a wall, part of the wall and part on the floor. Ano? So if you have that, again, the applied loads, you have a couple or moment at that point, and then of course you have a P. And inclusive to that, you have the mass of the element. So take note, if I were now to draw the free body diagram, isolate, remove the support. The supports are at B, which is the hinge or the pin, and of course the wall at A. Okay? That's why, representing that, first draw the loads, P, and then the moment, and then the weight, of course. Basically on that, it is directed downward, as we said, that is now the weight. And then for the support, take note, pin, dalawa, bx, by. And then of course, A, since it is just merely resting, this is the point of contact, then you simply have that as M sub, the normal N. Yung isa, kasi nagre-rest lang, ano? Wala naman. It's just like a rocker or a roller resting in that. But of course, the force now is normal to the plane of support. Yan. Yan. In the other one, you have here, of course, what you call as a rigid system of interconnected bodies. You have a pulley carrying a weight and a cable carrying the weight and transferring it here to these different points. So if you were now to analyze that, it seems to be complicated, but of course, if you are merely to solve for the reactions, you have a roller and a hinge. So you can see that the roller is represented with AY and BX and BY for the support of that point. Then you have to take note the applied loads T and of course the weight. Nandyan. So it's very important to be able now to determine kung ano ang gagawin niya. So that is the free body diagram. So when we get back now, the planar, this is unfortunately part of your exam because I have already merely made your supposedly quiz. I made it ready into your exam. So simply adding some topics so from modules 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So in the equilibrium of planar system, these are your three equations to be satisfied. That's why if you have three equations, as you have here. You have three equations. Then you can solve at the most three unknown, di ba? So, three equations, three unknown. Yun ang mathematical equation natin. Okay? Three equations, three unknowns. So, at the most, you can only solve three unknowns. But later on, we will be trying to defy this by merely what you call graphic, spatial relationships. Okay? So you can, for now, we would be resting on three equations: summation of forces on the x equivalent to 0, summation of forces on the y equivalent to 0, summation of moments at any point equivalent to 0. So the three steps on equilibrium analysis. First and foremost, draw the free body diagram. So this is already integral. I would have to emphasize, re-emphasize, re-emphasize that you have to have a free body diagram before you can start this. This is how also I observe, na alam ko na minadali, pinupya, walang diagram. Because the big question is, where is R1 or the resultant of this one? Hindi naman naka-emphasize sa drawing. That's why you have to be very careful on how you present it. It must be consistent. Siyempre, kung pare-parehas, alam mo na kung saan nanggaling. Hintayin mo na lang kung sino-sino. Although alam natin, sabi ko nga, hindi naman masama ang mangopya. Huwag lang na wala kayong naiintindihan. Papasa kayo walang naiintindihan. Of course, it's really difficult to assume, masakit rin sa loob mo kung minsan. Kung anak mo yan, pagbibintangan na nag-cheat, nangopya lang naman. I don't know. But of course, it has some moral issues with that. It's up to you. Actually, if you make it a life life principle that you will not cheat and cheating is bad and you accept it that cheating is bad, then okay, that's nice. That's something that will help you in your latter life. Okay? So, things that you have to do. So, we emphasize again, tignan lang ninyo. Walang drawing, walang points. Okay? So, this is something that we have to learn and go about because it shows us that we have good analytical frame of mind or analysis tools. That is what we're trying to develop. Paano kaya ito? Paano kaya to? That is something. Sabi ko nga, civil engineering is not a memory course or engineering is not a memory course. It is developing your analytical frame of mind. That's why the engineer should be able to develop it through here, starting here. Then, of course, just like in this problem, you have here an example, which is now a box again that is resting on an incline. And then you have a force P, which is now the unknown, which has an angle from the problem equivalent to 45 degrees. Yeah, 45 degrees. Okay. 45 degrees. And then, of course, we are to analyze this. So, if you are given those problem, of course, it has also the weight as given there. Alam natin that it has a weight of 300 lbs. We have here a 300-pound box resting on an incline. And you are to determine the value of P so that it will lay. Again, the term there is smooth incline because we are still in the introductory portion. But later on, kung mapapalitan dyan, rough, magningiba na yung equations ko nito. Okay? So, first things first, draw your free body diagram. This is the free body diagram. So, I don't know if you can appreciate that, but, you will notice that they are coplanar and concurrent. So you can have your X and Y axis, the usual, and then you try to draw it. But unfortunately, what we will be using is the normal X and Y. What we will do is the incline. You have seen the benefit of using the incline. Medyo ma-eliminate ang marami. That is the strategy here. That's why in the free body diagram, medyo naiba na. we utilize a different approach to that by using the what we call as the incline, yung incline. So there will be two what you call approaches, yung using the polygon and of course the algebraic. So if you would look at this using the incline, so the weight now can be transferred here, para lang consistent ka, yung weight dito, and then yung force P nandyan, and force P ito, sorry, force P, transfer lang ninyo so that you can see the brighter picture kung nasa fantasy. So if that is 45 degrees, this is 45 degrees. If that is 30 degrees, that is 30 degrees. As I've said, this is the weight, and that is P. So if you take summation of forces on the X, why did we rotate it? Kasi ma-eliminate mo marami, you will only deal with P and W. Yung iba, yung normal, remember, this is the normal, that is the contact. Pwede mong ilagay paakyat para hindi ka malito. Ay, N. N. So, we eliminate yung value of N and outright solve for the value of P. So, utilizing the inclined plane or the inclined axis, X and Y, I should say, taking summation of X equivalent to 0, you will notice now upward as positive. Ayun, upward positive. P cosine of 45 is equivalent to W sine of 30. Bakit sine? Kasi yung 30 degrees, ito siya sa loob. It's not here, Ito. Kaya sine of W 300 sine of 30 degrees. So eventually, since you only have one unknown in that equation, P now can be solved easily. The mere fact it's positive, then correct yung, hindi naman assumption yan, binigay. The magnitude lang. The alternative method, as I've said, is drawing your closed polygon. So you start with ang very first, what I can tell you is, of course, to draw it in a way na you start with either a horizontal or vertical force. Kasi madaling i-drawing. So we started with the weight, which is vertical. Again, if you want, you should have a scale para may graphical ka, You can check your answer kung tama nga. So here, you plot now, downward, 300 pounds. And then, of course, the normal, we don't know, but we know that it is 30 degrees with the vertical. So you can have that, 30 degrees, plot it out. The magnitude, we do not know, kaya lapis lang yan. And then the value of P, of course, we don't know. You can plot yung 45 degrees. The 45 degrees is with the horizontal. So, yan, 45 and 45, you can have that, 45 degrees. That's why you have that, yung 45 degrees. Dito, parallel with the incline, the 45 degrees. So, getting the interior angle, the total interior angle of a triangle is 180. 180 minus 30 minus 45, 105 degrees. And using sine law, you can now solve for P. P divided by sine of the opposite angle, 30 degrees, is equivalent to the given 300 sine of 45. So you have that relationship. And checking it out with the analysis made a while ago, you can have this as equivalent to each other. So that's an option. Of course, you can do that. Skip na lang natin dito. Anyway, for the analysis, you have here, if P is known in this problem, Alisin natin. Anyway, you have here, of course, the difference. In the figure, if P is known to be 160, P is this one. It is now equivalent to 160. Determine the values of alpha and theta. Okay, alpha and theta. So again, if we were now to draw the free body diagram, take note, parang coplanar concurrent force. If you notice the action line, yan, nakadirekto yan. Yan. So eventually, you can have this as the magnitude of the cable, and then you have force P, and then of course you have here the weight. You have here the weight, the 300 pounds. Madali na lang. And then, of course, the angle now, you could use that. But unfortunately, we have two unknowns and you have two equations. For this type of problem, ano, hindi ka naman magmo-moment dyan. Dalawa lang ang equations that you would be using. Summation of forces on the x equivalent to 0. Summation of forces y equivalent to 0. Two equations and two unknowns, alpha and theta. So, ganun po. So, in the cable, it's equivalent to how much it is carrying, di ba? So, it is transferred. That's why, as I've said, you can start doing it there. Then, from there on, you can either use our force polygon method, which is the best option for now kasi hindi natin alam yung theta at alpha. But of course, assume ito. Ano? Ginawang assumption lang yun. Okay? So again, you can use again cosine law. So cosine law, you can utilize it here. Okay? In the next problems that we have, puli yan. We will go now to planar equilibrium. Ano? So when you say planar equilibrium, x and y muna. So for planar equilibrium, you have three equations that you can utilize, as I've said. Three equations, then you have three unknowns. And the term that you would be using, sometimes you would meet the term statically determinate. So yung term na statically determinate, it means to say that using this your three equations, you can solve unknowns. Ano? Kasi kung indeterminate, hindi mo ma-solve. It needs another fourth equation. So in this case, when you say statically determinate, these are structures that you can analyze simply utilizing your three equations of equilibrium. So there is no problem with this because statics merely deals with statically determinate. So if we say statically determinate frame, so these are frame that you can use analyzing, you can analyze utilizing your three equations of stat or equilibrium. So just to start off, this is a problem that is very nice to work on because it gives us an option, ano? Maraming option on how to solve this, as I've said. You can, of course, start by doing your moment. But the strategy here is that, of course, what we can do is as long as we have a force in this problem, ano, you are to determine P, F, and T. Take note, three unknowns. I have three working equations. So this is a determinate, statically determinate structure. So these are the applied loads, the P600, 200. But I have three unknowns, a P, a F, and a T, P, F, T. So what you can do here is that you can now, this is a strategy, since if we start with summation of forces, horizontal, unknown, it has a horizontal unknown, so three unknown. Summation of forces vertical, it has a vertical unknown, ang hirap, tatagal pa tayo. There will be three equations in a system of eliminating it, either by substitution or elimination. Yeah? So the best option now is yung moment, and how this is how to do it. So if this is the action line of P, what you can do, P, you project mo, no? Action line, line of action. No? And then I want to eliminate P and F by having a common. Yung topic ng anak ko is what we call common factor. Least common LCD, least common factor. So what is the logic why I am doing that? Because if there is a common point, in this case, D yata yun, D, yun, D, you will notice that if this were the common point D, what happens now is I eliminate P by virtue of zero lever arm, di ba? If a force is passing to that point, it becomes zero. And force T, the same, it passes to that point. So what happens? At a certain point in space D, I will be eliminating P and F by virtue of zero lever arm. And incidentally, I have only one unknown. Of course, these are applied loads. So there is no problem with that. It's given. But you only have one unknown. That is the strategy now. So what was presented here is that there is now that common point. No? So if I were now to take a moment, of course, the distances are very important. So how did we get about the distances? By using yung slope relationship. Ano? 1:3 ito. So 1:3. But you are given ito ay 8. So 8 times 3 na lang, di ba? 1:3. If 8 is 1, then its horizontal component is 24. Ayan. So 8 times 3, 24. Kaya yung distance of D from B is 24. Okay. So doing that, again, this is the line of action of the force P. This is the line of action of T. And then what we had done, we remove P and T. Okay. So we are here now. This is now our point of rotation. So if you were now to assume clockwise as positive, sabi ko nga assume lang, hindi convention. Kung gusto mo counterclockwise, so 3600 becomes positive kasi counterclockwise siya. But we'll just work on what you have here in the module, clockwise as positive. So we are here. So the first force, 1,200, multiply that by 24, you have a value. Minus 3,600, bakit minus? Counterclockwise. Times 12. 24 minus 12, so this is also 12. Okay? And eventually, the problem of F. What do we do? Yung line of action na naman, okay? At a point, pwede mong i-project that. Actually, you can also consider it here, ano? You can consider ito, but you have, if at this point, you will notice it has both horizontal and vertical component. But here, dalawa. Dalawa pa rin, pero yung f of x, take note, is passing through the point D. Kaya yung vertical component na lang, which is directed downward, as from the direction given there. So here, this would now be the vertical component of f. F, basing it on the slope. So it is 2 over the square root of 13 times f. And the distance from D, which is the lever arm, and since it is clockwise, positive siya, then this is now 2 over the square root of 13f times 36, 24 plus 12. So you can see that in the equation that we had here. Summation of moments at D. So yun ang inuna natin. So yung 3600 counterclockwise, clockwise, these are the applied load, and then you will notice that 2 to the square root of 13f times 36 is also clockwise. And eventually, you can solve for f. The other, of course, inuna sana natin ito B. If you start with B, if you will notice, it will eliminate P and F already. Di ba? It will eliminate P and F already. So our only problem now is T. So if you start here, summation of moments at B, clockwise again as positive, just to be consistent. Eliminate, eliminate, T na lang. Eh, naka-horizontal naman, walang problema sa lever arm. So here, summation of moments at B, T times 8 minus because counterclockwise. Here, dadaan na naman sa point P. So, no lever arm. Plus 3,600 times 12 because it is clockwise with respect to point B. Clockwise. Ito, counterclockwise. That's why the first points that we have there, summation of moment at B, ito yung equation. So eventually, you can also solve for T. So, T, F, P na lang. So, take note of P, ito na. So, you have to choose a point, yung point E. Ano? Point E, it will eliminate the value of F and T and one unknown. And then take note, the point of application of the force will be at point D. Action line naman niya yan, di ba? So, you can place it anywhere. So, eventually, what I will use would be the component. Take note again that the horizontal component of P passes through point DE, I should say. D and E, tama? So, problema lang natin, you only have your PY, and of course, basing it on the slope, 1 is to the square root of 10P. That is the vertical component of P. So, if you take a moment about E, you eliminate F and T, and you can solve for P. So, if clockwise is positive, clockwise lang yung 3,600, 3,600 times 24, minus 1,200 times 12, and then minus counterclockwise, Py, minus 1, the square root of 10p, multiply it by 36, 24 plus 12. So that is what you find in this equation here at the bottom. summation of moment. Then eventually, one unknown, you can solve. For your checking, this is the good part. Ano? You can do the checking. Since you have already assumed that this is in equilibrium, it is statically determinate, you can start off by checking. Take summation of forces on X, of course, with using your solved value for P, F, and T, if it will be equivalent to 0. Then take again summation of forces on the Y, is it equivalent to 0? So these are the equations that you can utilize to determine whether correct, you have the correct solutions or not. So just to correct it. Okay? So in this problem, again, it's almost similar to what you have here. It would be best for you to go over here. Especially ito. Gusto ko itong problem. Gusto ko itong problem. So you will see here, we have first isolated. There is a pulley which is connected to a beam. And the pulley carries a load of 500 pounds. And of course, it is supported by a cable. So what medyo complicated. Paano kung to solve yan? Take note. Isolate first. This is the process. Isolate first the pulley. Consider the free body diagram of the pulley. It is the tension on the cable. The weight, this is the 500 pound. Equal yung tension, yung magnitude ng tension at saka along the cable. So this is the weight and that is the tension. That's why if you will notice, this is the process that was indicated here. No? And then you have here the resultant of the pin. Okay? What connects the pulley to the beam is a pin. So dalawa. Ano? Dalawa. The horizontal and vertical component. After you have determined that, utilizing the free body diagram of the pulley, you will transfer it. Now, this is the part. Ano? Sir, bakit nagkaiba? Sabi nga sa Newton's second law, for every action, there is a reaction oppositely directed but equal in magnitude. That's why take note how it is applied from the pulley to the beam. From the pulley to the beam. So be vertical, upward sa pulley as a reaction. But when it comes now to your beam, it becomes a load. But the direction has changed from the upward to the downward. For every action, there is a reaction oppositely directed but equal in magnitude. For the horizontal component, using the free body diagram of the beam, it is towards the right. But when it is transferred to the beam, it becomes horizontal. Yun. Towards the left. Okay. So, this is now the challenge for you to try to work on. Ito naman yung pin problem. Ayan, isa rin. Gustong-gusto ko rin yan. Incline. So, anyway, this is where I think for the class problem, again, you look at it, support, incline. No? So we have here, normal yan. Okay? So since it's almost time, 9:24 na. Do you have any questions so far? Children of the gods? Do we have any question? Can I stop presenting? Miss Bulshu? Ano sabi?
Sir?
Do you have any question?
Wala naman.
Sigurado. Okay? So, I will see you on 23? 23 ba? Nilagay ko? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
23 is the Wednesday. So, you have to be there at 8:30 because it's already exam. So, 3 hours. Spend that hour there para hindi kayo mamoblema. Okay? So, we will utilize the full 3 hours, unfortunately. So, kung meron kang next subject doon na dapat, I think, kung 8:30, 11:30 yan na yung next schedule. So, if you have 11:30 to 2:30 schedule, 3 hours din yung window. Okay? Ay, nabanhugak ah. Okay? See you on Wednesday, people. Okay? Bye-bye. 40-60 ah. Okay. Bye-bye and thank you. I need to
Thank you, sir.
another class.
Bye, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you po,
Take
sir.
care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You are all welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye. Sige.